So we'd like you to enjoy the music. So if you could keep the conversation to a minimum, thank you. Thank you all. Please be seated. I was expecting another verse for some reason. Good morning, everyone. So lots going on in chapel this morning. I know what's on a lot of people's mind is the kind of unusual amount of seemingly violence in the world these days. We have the war in Ukraine kind of showing no indication of ending. And we've had two really horrendous shootings in the country south of the border, and one in which a number of children were killed. So we're going to reflect a bit on the importance of peace and reconciliation this morning, the importance of getting along, and of course celebrate, I think, the fact that at Shawnigan we have kind of lived this notion of community and getting along even before words like diversity came into vogue. Shawnigan has been living a peaceful community existence for decades. So we start by acknowledging that as part of the complexity of life, we are gathered on the traditional territories of the Cowichan and the Malahat peoples, and we acknowledge that and thank them this morning. And we're going to celebrate this morning another part of the complexity of our lives here. It is Asian Heritage Month this month, and so we're going to hear some readings and some reflections to kind of celebrate, I think. What comes to my mind this morning is celebrating the complexity of life, a complexity that's not going to go away. It's just going to I think life is going to get more complex as we go on. So really what we're doing here is, I think, getting comfortable with this complexity and learning how to navigate it and really developing the kind of virtues and values that will allow us to be lights in the world of peace and reconciliation and kind of forces for good. So that's enough about that. I'm going to invite Linda and Audrey to come up and do a reading from the Tao Te Ching.
The following is a translated passage from Tao Te Ching. Everyone on earth knowing that beauty is beautiful makes ugliness. Everybody knowing that goodness is good makes wickedness. For being and non-being arise together, hard and easy complete each other, long and short shape each other.
High and low depend on each other. Note and voice make the music together. Before and after follow each other. That's why the wise soul does without doing, teaches without talking. The things of this world exist, they are. You can't refuse them. To bear and not to own, to act and not lay claim, to do the work and let it go, for just letting it go is what makes it stay.
Thank you, ladies. And I'm going to invite you to stand and sing again. We'll sing hymn number 13, Be Still My Soul. Hymn number 13. Thank you. Please be seated. That was really beautiful. Thank you. And I'll invite Sarah to come forward for the second reading, and I'll let her introduce the reading.
The following reading is an excerpt from Rupi Kaur's poem, Broken English Poem, in which she honors her parents' sacrifices and struggles as immigrants to Canada. I can't compact their existence into 26 letters and call it a description. I tried once, but the adjectives needed to describe them don't even exist. So I ended up with pages and pages full of words, followed with commas and more words and more commas, only to realize that there are some things in the world so infinite that they can never use a full stop. So how dare you mock your mother when she opens her mouth and broken English spills out? Her accent is thick like honey. Hold it with your life. It's the only thing she has left from home. Don't stomp on that richness. Instead, hang it up on the walls of museums next to Dali and Van Gogh. Her life is brilliant and tragic. Kiss the side of her tender cheek. She already knows what it sounds like to have an entire nation laugh when she speaks. She's more than our punctuation and language. We might be able to take pictures and write stories, but she made an entire world for herself. How's that for art?
You look surprised you did that so well, Sarah. Thank you so much for that. It's beautiful. Enough there to reflect on, really, for a whole morning. Thank you. And now I'm very happy to invite Jani Zhang to come forward and share some reflections.
My palms are really sweaty. This is called hot sauce covered dumplings. In first grade, my popo and gongong started packing my lunch for school. Each morning before the sun would rise, my grandparents quietly donned their plastic slippers and began cooking in the kitchen. Fried rice, chow mein, and my favorite, handmade jiaozi. My popo's weathered hands would meticulously craft them at night in the faint glow of her iPad, all while secretly watching Cantonese soap operas. She would deny this, of course. Then, in 5th grade, I started joining my abuela for dinner. Every Friday, she spent hours preparing a massive traditional feast for our family of 7. My abuela would serve steaming enchiladas to my cousins, tamales to my aunt, and tacos de lengua sprinkled with cilantro and lime to me. My father? He'd eat anything as long as he could drench it with hot sauce. Safe to say, my cultural heritage is a bit unusual. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jani, and today I'm going to be sharing my experiences grappling with my own cultural identity. Like many who come from mixed backgrounds or have first-generation immigrant parents, I struggled with feeling accepted into my world and embracing my heritage. I was born and raised in Vancouver, Canada, but my mother's family is from Guangzhou, China, while my father's family is from Guadalajara, Mexico. Being raised Asian Latina in a primarily Caucasian environment came with red envelopes and piñatas, but also the feeling of not truly belonging in any of my worlds. Not only was I seen as not white enough in the eyes of my classmates, but also seen as too white in the eyes of my grandparents. No matter what I did, I thought that I would never be seen as either one. So as much as I wished it wasn't, my life was split in 3. 1/3 of me was the girl at school, who loved macaroni and gossiped in English. Another was the girl at home, who drank fish soup and argued with her mother in Cantonese. The last was the girl at my abuela's, who ate quesadillas and watched old Spanish films with subtitles. Over time, the normal for me became the first third, and I've only fully realized this now. In philosophy, we learned about something called the mythical norm, a term coined by Audre Lorde. It is something we in our hearts know that is not me. The books I read, the shows I watched, the norm became white, and that was what I wished to be. For instance, I never used an Asian character in my stories, games, or accounts. From episode avatars to dolls and Lego figurines, they all had normal names with blue eyes and curly brown hair. Any characters I've ever made as myself have been white, never once thinking that it was normal to be anything else. Whenever I could create fictional or imaginary people, I saw it as a chance to live out this fantasy where I wasn't myself. Yet, I couldn't escape reality. Throughout my childhood, I believed that I was an anomaly. Surrounded by girls who ate grilled cheeses and received goodbye kisses from their mothers, my idea of normal reflected what I saw every day. I wanted to look and act like my white friends. I wanted their curly eyelashes, high cheekbones, and upturned noses. I wanted eyelids that weren't hooded, hair that wasn't pitch black, and freckles that came out in the summer. I wanted their food, their families, their names. I wanted mothers who showed lots of affection and lunches that didn't make my friends wrinkle their noses. My normal was perched upon an unattainable pedestal. Beautiful became associated with white, and I could only stare with envious eyes. Thus, I hid the pieces of myself that made me different. Like a chameleon changing its colors, I blended into my surroundings, weeding away my Asian roots. I took pride in being whitewashed. I took pride in failing out of Chinese school. I took pride in being good at English and hated that I was really good at math. I took pride in not wanting to become a doctor. I took pride in dropping out of piano lessons. I took pride in not being able to write characters. I took pride in making fun of my popo's lunches. My insecurities and desire to fit in with my white friends meant that everything I did was to be one step farther from being Asian. While I struggled repressing my culture in public, I was also finding balance between my family's backgrounds at home. Growing up, the Chinese side was predominant. My popo, gong, and mother taught me everything, from multiplication to mahjong, and we always celebrated the Mid-Autumn Festival with mooncakes. The Mexican side, however, played a much smaller role. I never learned Spanish from my father, which meant Friday dinners were cacophonies of unfamiliar words I could not decipher. When my abuela baked strawberry shortcake for my birthday, I was unable to communicate past the simple muchas gracias. Every week was a constant reminder that I was an outsider to my own family. How could I call myself Mexican when I couldn't speak Spanish, when I had only visited Guadalajara once, when I couldn't handle spicy food? To my frustration, I was attempting to bury my Chinese heritage while desperately trying to connect with my Mexican roots. I felt like a burden, disconnected from an entire side of my family. Although I love the person I am today, I lost important pieces of myself in the process of assimilating. After years of thinking my cultural identity was something to be ashamed of, I wish my younger self understood how beautiful it actually is. I'm proud of my popo and gong for sacrificing their home country, their language, and their customs so that their children and grandchildren could grow up with more opportunities than they did. They've devoted the past 18 years of their lives to caring for my cousins and I, cooking us 3 meals a day, walking us to daycare, teaching us math, knitting us sweaters, the list goes on and on. I'm also proud of my abuela for bringing our family together on Friday evenings, for putting hours into cooking delicious dinners, and for baking me a strawberry shortcake every single year on my birthday. I'm so lucky that she takes the time to slowly teach me secret family recipes, even though her English is limited. Hot sauce doesn't traditionally go with dumplings. But if you ask my father, he'd disagree, joking that hot sauce makes everything better, while lathering my popo's pork jiaozi with Valentina sauce. Nothing about my cultural heritage is normal, but it's perfectly normal to me. They are layers that uniquely define who I am. Without all three, I wouldn't be me. Now look around the room. At the person sitting next to you, in front of you, behind you. Think about your roommates. Everyone has their own distinct stories and cultural backgrounds, and that's what makes being here so special. We are the living, breathing product of generations before us, embodying years of traditions, celebrations, and values. To anyone who has ever felt out of place or like they didn't belong, know that you aren't alone. Take it from someone who struggled with defining and understanding her cultural identity for years. It's okay not to be fluent in your parents' native languages. It's okay not to know how to cook traditional dishes. It's okay not to truly understand the customs of your roots. I hope that by standing here today, I've helped make at least one person feel more comfortable in their skin. Being raised differently doesn't make me more or less Chinese, Mexican, or Canadian. I'm proud to come from such beautiful and rich cultures, and you should be too. Thank you.
Thank you, Janny. I think you have it there. Nothing's normal about any of us except our lives are normal to us, right? I think that's the answer. That was wonderful. Thank you for the reminders and for the inspiration. So just a few words from me in lieu of doing prayers this morning, just maybe a short reflection on the importance in our lives of peace and reconciliation. As I say, we've seen a lot of violence in the world. And one narrative, of course, is that these perpetrators of this horrendous violence and these mass shootings, or maybe even Putin himself, one narrative is that they're kind of monsters, inhuman monsters, and that idea helps us to kind of separate ourselves from what's happening. Those people are not really human like I'm human. Of course, the reality is they're exactly like us, and all of us are capable of great goodness and great evil as well. So we're all on this continuum, and so it's worthwhile, I think, to reflect a little bit on how in our own lives we sometimes maybe unintentionally perpetrate violence through our words, through our attitudes, through our language, through our actions. And that we're always on that continuum, and we always have to reflect on where in our lives we have to kind of think about any violence that we might be perpetrating in our own communities. So on the other hand, as we're capable of great violence, we're also capable of great goodness, and we're all capable of being peacemakers. And so I think it's also worthwhile to think about how it is that in our lives we're agents of peace in our own communities. How in our words and in our attitudes and in our kindness and our acts of compassion, how we're bringing more peace to the world. So, all the great sages of all the great religions all say, if we meet the tendency of violence in the world with the tendency of violence in ourselves, then we'll have more violence. That all the sages and all the wisdom teachers tell us we should meet violence with the peace that is within us, the compassion that's within us. So something I was going to kind of spend some time on this, but I'll just offer that to you as some things to reflect on, to do a little bit of an examination of your life maybe sometime during this week, thinking about how it is that you're bringing about peace and compassion and kindness rather than more violence and fear. And I think all of us all of us would benefit from that kind of reflection. And so, simply to end this little prayerful reflection, I'm going to ask you to open, if you can find the page of prayers. It's a few pages in. I know I don't have these pages numbered, but you'll see it says Holy Eucharist on one side. On the bottom of the other side is a prayer, a Hindu prayer for peace. So I will invite you to read along either silently or out loud as a way to pray for peace in the world, particularly today, peace in Ukraine, for peace in our own community, and for peace in our own lives. So let us pray. O Lord God Almighty, may there be peace in celestial regions. May there be peace on earth. May the waters be appeasing. May herbs be wholesome, and may trees and plants bring peace to all. May all beneficent beings bring peace to us. May thy law propagate peace all through the world. May all things be a source of peace to us. And may thy peace itself bestow peace on all. And may that peace come to me also. Amen. And I also just want to say, just to end, I think we also maybe a prayer in gratitude and thanksgiving for living in a community like this, where peace is the norm, where we do know how to live together. It's really a privilege that not everyone in the world enjoys, believe me. So we're very grateful. And I'm going to invite Mrs. Tyrrell to come forward. She's around here somewhere. There she is. To introduce the musical presentation.
Good morning. You may remember a few weeks ago, Serena got up and sang something that they had sung at festival. And this morning, I'm going to ask Ridley to come forward and get ready, because Ridley's going to be performing something that they performed at festival. Ridley performed in 3 different categories at the festival and came second in the class where they sang this song. And I'm going to let Ridley explain to you the context of the song that they're about to sing.
Good morning. Today I'm going to be singing a song from the show Newsies, which is about Newsies. The song is called Santa Fe, and it is about a boy named Jack, who is an orphan who was raised in Manhattan as a newsie. He is dreaming about going to a place far away that is better for him and where he won't be alone. So that's what they call a family. Mother, daughter, father, son. Guess that everything you heard about is true. So you ain't got any family. Well, who said you needed one? Ain't you glad nobody's waiting up for you? When I dream on my own, I'm alone, but I ain't lonely. For a dreamer, night's the only time of day. When the city's finally sleeping, all my thoughts begin to stray, and I'm on the train that's bound for Santa Fe. And I'm free, like the wind, like I'm gonna live forever. It's a feeling time can never take away. All I need's a few more dollars, and I'm out of here to stay. Dreams come true, yes they do, Santa Fe. Where does it say you gotta live or die here? Where does it say a guy can't catch a break? Why should you only take what you're given? Why should you spend your whole life living trapped where there ain't no future? Even at 17, busting your back for someone else's sake. If the life don't seem to suit ya, how about a change of scene? Far from the lousy headlines and the deadlines in between. Santa Fe, are you there? Do you swear you won't forget me? If I found you, would you let me come and stay? I ain't getting any younger, and before my dying day, I want space, not just air. Let them laugh in my face, I don't care. Save a place, I'll be there. So that's what they call family. Ain't you glad you ain't that way? Ain't you glad you've got a dream called Santa Fe?
It's always amazing when grade 8 gets up anyways, but that was really, really something really spectacular. Thank you, Ridley. I just want to take a moment just to thank everyone who kind of came together and made this work. There was a little bit of organization at the last minute to get it all to happen. So thank you all. So much to think about, so many beautiful words and so many really beautiful emotions expressed this morning. So thank you all. And as if that's all not enough, we have a really exciting announcement that I'm going to invite the headmaster up to talk about.
Thanks, Rev, and a real smorgasbord of a chapel service. And Janny have to say that was one of the finest addresses I've heard in chapel since becoming head of school here. Well done, Ridley. It takes great courage to stand up here and do a solo, and you did it incredibly powerfully and impressively. So MCB's asked me to talk a little bit about the prefect process. We normally do this at the end of term, but we've decided that we're actually going to do it at this point of term, run the process, and then we can have a better system of handover, training, succession planning from the outgoing prefects with the incoming prefects. And it was quite a challenge. We had 51 applicants from the grade 11s, and to turn that into a short list and final list of 14. Of course, some of you will be disappointed, but let me just remind you that a great experience to go through a process like this, which of course has success, but also that experience of going for something and not quite making it. But of course, as all the house directors will tell you, there are plenty of other opportunities to show leadership in your grade 12 year, both in-house and across the school. Every single one of us has the opportunity to serve and to lead in our own individual capacity. But thanks to MCB, who sort of masterminds this process, for those of you perhaps lower down the school who don't know about the process, anyone in grade 11 is invited to write a letter of application, and a good experience to actually write how you and self-present and what you think you'd like to do at Shawnigan and drive it forward. Students get the opportunity to vote. There's an interview panel, so we're also testing your ability not just to write, but how do you have a conversation, and those were conducted by teams of a member of staff and also a current prefect. Teachers, advisors, and house directors had the opportunity to contribute to the process. And of course, the house directors play a very important part in this because they know you extremely well. And then the current prefects come together and discuss the list. So that's the process, and then it gets given to me, and I have the final authorization. And of course, it's my job simply to endorse that list. It's extremely rigorous, and we are going to not announce the heads of school for next year. We're going to leave that till the end of term. We haven't decided yet. So this is going to be logistically challenging, I believe, but Dom popped into my office earlier to brief me as to what he and McKinley had planned. I'm going to invite the current prefects to form a line behind me, and then I'm going to invite individually each appointed new prefect to come up and choose anyone in this incredible sort of line of style, beauty, brilliance, and choose which one you want to go to. It's a little bit like that sport in the playground, the last person left. And when you receive it from them, please also, they will then come back to their seat with you as well. Is that right, Dom? You got it. Got it. Let's see how it goes. And just a little bit of, can I just put that on there for me, is we have this book, and over the years, new prefects are invited to my office. So the future batch came to my office, and MCB and I talked to them about the responsibilities. We do tell them they have the opportunity to walk away once we brief them as to what we expect of them. But one thing I read to them is not just the school motto, but I also read what's in the beginning of this book, where generations of Shawnigan prefects have signed in years gone by. But it says this: "We are committed to making a difference to the lives of others at Shawnigan. We shall, to the best of our abilities, engage in the little, unremembered acts of kindness and selfless work of leadership." And before I invite the next generation to come up, I would like to take a moment on behalf of the whole school to thank this group of prefects who, looking at every single individual one of you, I know you've still got half a term to serve, but each of you at different points, and each of you will have had an engagement with one of them, but I know that each of you has carried out a little unremembered act of kindness in your time. So huge applause, I think, for this group. So whether they're in your house or in your grade or someone you've been in the musical or on a sports team with, or you just recognize them, let's give each individual student who thoroughly deserves this opportunity to take on the role of prefect a huge round of applause. We'll do them one at a time. It's in the order of how they signed this book last night. Come on up, Serena Zhang. Choose who you want. Choose who you want. Serena, I could see you were going to give us a bow there as well, but no, but good. Sophia Atkins. Ava Ferrance. I know you're thinking there are only girls who've become prefects. Sophie Soltow. Henri Gave. Lovely to have that enthusiasm, Mr. Keyes, but calm yourself, calm yourself. Sarah Bagley. Gabe Dyer. Kyan Miranda. Just sit on his knee. Kira Loras. Edward Ashenhurst. Ingrid Hopkins. Spencer Sang. Well done, Spencer. He wrote his name in full in the book, Maximilian Chong. Give him a hug as well. Josh, for such a fine sportsman, it's good to see that you were left to last in the playground there. Okay, good luck to that group. I'm going to pass it back to the Rev. Oh, that's very easy to do. And let's practice. I'm getting told things by my wife. So in silence, just so we practice that. Annika's not here. That's a good point. But Josh, get back up here. Josh, that is why. Which house is Annika in? Okay. Annika is away at hockey at the moment. Of course, her name is not in the book, a terrible omission by the head. And that's why Mrs. Milne's behind me counting and what's going on here, and he's a complete incompetent. So I would like the head of House of K's to come and receive the tie on Annika's behalf. Well done. Well done, Josh. I take it all back about the playground. So, what I want you to do is, in absolute silence, as your house directors have trained you, number 1 in the book, let's stand in silence and then belt it out. And down again. Mr. Samuel loves it when I do this. I know he's smiling behind me. In silence again.